I started practicing in the area of civil sexual assault because I wanted to give a legal voice to the widespread problem of sexual abuse in society. There are actually many legal avenues of redress that are available, either alone or in combination. This is because sexual abuse is a serious wrong, and it's recognized as such in various legal contexts. So aside from the criminal justice system, which aims to punish the wrongdoer, there are some civil options. The primary one is a civil lawsuit against the individual wrongdoer, and it can also be against other involved parties, such as an employer. And that process aims to compensate a victim of sexual abuse. Another option is alternative dispute resolution, and that is a process that is out of court and works where the parties are prepared to work together cooperatively to try to find a solution. That's a process that can give rise to compensation, like a lawsuit, or non-monetary remedies. Yes, there are what I would call administrative legal processes. So, for example, an internal or disciplinary proceeding in which a person's right to practice their chosen profession is stopped or suspended. So, for example, a therapist can be subject to a disciplinary hearing by the body that governs the therapist, and that could be, for instance, the College of Social Workers or the College of Psychologists. Likewise, a priest or a minister can be disciplined by his or her church. There are human rights proceedings that apply where there has been sexual or another form of discrimination or harassment, and that process can give rise to a monetary and a non-monetary remedy. Also, our provincial and territorial governments have established schemes for compensation. It's modest compensation, but compensation for victims of crime, and that includes, of course, sexual offenses. And then there can sometimes be societal responses, and I'm thinking here of a public inquiry where there is an attempt to understand how and why abuse occurred and how to stop it from occurring again in the future. And here I'm thinking of a process like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was instituted by our federal government to try and understand why First Nation children were abused and mistreated in residential schools across the country. There are many considerations when I advise a client about the options. These include legal fees. With some of the processes I've described, the legal fees are lower or even nil. There's also the issue of compensation. Some of the processes provide for more, some for less compensation. Non-monetary remedies. Some of the processes don't allow for any non-monetary remedy, others do. And then there's the issue of the extent of the control over the process. And one has to remember that survivors of sexual abuse have had power and control taken away from them. So the extent to which they can direct or shape a process can be very important.